Ozempic is in the headlines. I don't really follow mainstream news, but there are women that are struggling. They're over 40. They're trying everything, I guess. And that's why what leads them to Ozempic, they're frustrated because they're exercising, they're dieting, they are trying to live a healthy life, and they just can't get those stubborn pounds to budge, especially for women over 40. I happen to be in that category, maybe add another decade or so, but that's another story. But people are talking about Ozempic like it's some kind of magic fix. And I've got Dr. Chari to the rescue. She has been on the show several times. She is a fan favorite, and she is a favorite of yours truly as well. And she's going to talk about why our body is storing fat. And even though this is addressed toward women, men sometimes have these issues too. But Dr. Chari specializes in balancing. Well, Dr. Chari, why don't you tell us how you help women over 40 feel better, look better, get rid of that stubborn belly fat. And then at the end of the broadcast, we'll talk about better than Ozempic, what we need to look out for, and some healthy alternatives. So give us a little bit of background, and then we'll dive in.
Thank you, Peggy. It's great to be back on your program. And yes, this is such an important topic and such a big source of frustration to so many women in not only the US, but around the world, because it's suddenly like, what's happening to my body? It's changing. I'm doing all the right things and eating right, exercising, and still I can't lose the weight. And where is this even coming from? And I went through that myself, so personally. And so that's why I'm very passionate about working with women over the age of 40, 45 to help them boost their metabolism, lose the weight, balance their hormones with the natural overall approach, and then really get to the root cause of why this is occurring in the first place, again, with the natural holistic approach. And that's what I've been doing for now over 25 years, practicing integrative medicine. I'm a medical doctor, and my specialty is internal medicine, and I practice functional medicine, which is having a natural holistic approach and getting to the root cause and focusing really on women's health.
Well, that's exactly what we need, Dr. Chari. I know that my viewers get so frustrated, and I do too, when we get all that conflicting information from, I call it the mainstream medical merry-go-round, when you get on the merry-go-round and you can't get off because one prescription leads to another, and then you have side effects and you need something else. And I love that your goal is to help people reduce or get off these medications, but still have the results that they're after. And I want to know why this happens in that age range, 40, 45 and older. I was active my entire life. I still am active, but in those years, like 45 to 50 and into my 50s, it's like, I remember being so frustrated. My clothes didn't fit. I was restricting calories more. I was trying to exercise more. I didn't feel right in my body. And some years later, we met, and then you helped get me on the right path, which is why I'm so happy to talk about these issues, because I know that I'm not alone. So what I want to talk about hormonally and also our lifestyle. So why is that number like 40 sort of the tipping point? What's going on?
Well, Peggy, it's because we're going through a lot of shifts. And I want women to really realize it's a beautiful transition in life and that there's nothing wrong with them. It's just the natural body transition from one phase of life to another. And that's why what worked in the past wasn't working anymore as we're going through the transition and then afterwards. And so we're having changes in our hormones, in estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, but there's other hormones that change as well, including, can be our thyroid and then also insulin. So balancing our blood sugar is very, very important in this phase of life, because as our hormones are going through that little bit of a shift here, we may see that other hormones, including stress hormones like cortisol and insulin going up, blood sugar getting imbalanced, and then also with all the toxins that we're exposed to in this current day and age, all of those factors combined, and nutritional deficiencies as well, can then lead to further inflammation in the body, and then we get that buildup of the belly fat. And so it's a combination of several things that actually create this. So I don't want women to blame themselves. This is what's occurring across the board, and they are not alone.
It is so frustrating because what worked in your 20s, through your 20s into your 30s, up till you're 40, it's like, because I remember I could just cut back a little bit on my food intake, and it seemed like in a week I could lose about 5 pounds. Not that I'm a slave to the scale, but my clothes would feel better. I would feel lighter. I'd have more energy. And those same things just don't seem to work. And I feel like that's why I'm seeing, you can't help but just see it around you, social media and so forth, that women are turning to what they think are these quick fixes with these prescription drugs. You're all about getting women and men, primarily women, off these drugs. So I know that that is concerning. A lot of people are looking at that thinking, oh, it kind of seems like a good idea, but what can we understand? You talked about progesterone, estrogen, even testosterone. So hormones are changing. Is that something we need to supplement for or just allow? Or I'd like to dive in a little bit more into that, if you want to go that way, into the hormones a little bit.
Definitely. So as our hormones are changing, and there's different approaches with regards to some people end up using bioidentical hormones. However, this is what I want to share with women everywhere, that regardless of your choice of whether you use bioidentical hormones or not, we still need to address the foundation, which is nutrition, which is also increasing the amount of protein intake and fiber and getting the right amount of healthy fats in the diet. It's also about addressing the toxins that we're being exposed to, because even if women use bioidentical hormones or other forms of hormones, even, I don't recommend the synthetic, of course. However, still then you need to look at, are the hormones even making a connection, a good connection with the cells, because there's such a buildup of toxins. So we need to address that. We need to lower the inflammation. We need to balance the blood sugar. And then there's other hormones as well. We need to look at the thyroid. And the thyroid gland and the adrenals are like twins supporting each other. And so that helps with our energy and dealing with stress. And then also there's other hormones like ghrelin and leptin, which help us with our, feeling full faster, or our, appetite for having more cravings or hunger. So it's like, it's complex. It's so many different hormones, not just the, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone that everyone talks about. It's even further than that, and insulin. And so when the foundation is taken care of with our nutrition, with detoxification, with reducing inflammation, with balancing all of these hormones, and especially gut health and stress, then at that point, introducing, for some women, they may want to go and use bioidentical hormones. And my niche is particularly with women who are looking to either avoid going on hormones or they want to come off of it. And so I support them using specific remedies, certain herbs or supplements that's customized for each person, so we can address that as well. So
Well,
there's many different approaches.
I just meant to, I interrupted there, but I wanted to let everyone know that it is an individualized approach. So Dr. Chari is making available to our viewers a complimentary consultation, 15-minute consultation, and I will have information in the description box. But how can they contact you for that, Dr. Chari?
Thank you, Peggy. Absolutely. They can go to my website, which is charicenter.com. So my last name, Chari, CHARICENTER.com. And then at the very top, they'll be able to click the button, that red button there, that they can click and sign up for a complimentary 15-minute consult where we can review what their health concerns are. I can share with them what I feel is going on and what the next steps would be.
Perfect. So this is charicenter.com. Friends, this isn't a sponsored show. Dr. Chari is a personal friend, and I would say my personal physician. I don't really need I mean, I'm in very good health, but I can always rely on her advice on her direction. And so I would definitely take advantage of that. It just starts with a phone call. She can point you in the right direction in terms of an individualized approach. I would like to learn a little bit more when you're talking about bioidentical hormones. Like, what does that mean? So, are those like, can you buy them at the health food store, or do you have to have a prescription, or is that under a doctor's care? And are there side effects, or walk us through that just a little bit, if you would?
Sure. So bioidentical hormones, it's different from, we can say, the synthetic hormones that have been prescribed for many decades, I can say. And it's really more identical to the type of hormones and the structure of the hormones that our own body produces. And they're usually, either topical, some are oral. There's different oils. It comes in different forms. And for some women, it can be incredible. They can get results from having some support. And so, what I recommend though is that even if a woman is going or wanting to go on bioidentical hormones, even then, it is still very important to get the foundations taken care of. And so, yes, they would need to see a doctor to get the prescription and the right amounts for them based on lab testing. And there's other testing that can be done as well. Some look at saliva, and then there's the blood, etc. And also to look at the detox pathways of a woman before even introducing bioidentical hormones. That's very important
Ah.
because, yeah, that's very important as well to see how is the liver actually processing these hormones as well. And
Well, I love that. It's fascinating. You always look at the entire picture. It's not just isolated, not just the hormones, but the, as you say, the detoxification pathways. I interrupted you again, but I'm just so fascinated by this topic.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Because it is very important because, our body goes through phases. The liver processes the hormones from making them dissolvable in fat to dissolvable in water. And there can be a peak of a toxic form of estrogen that we want to minimize and avoid. And we can do that by making sure our gut is working well, there's less inflammation, we have good amount of good bacteria in our gut and diverse bacteria, and make sure our liver is working properly. And again, it goes also back to the nutrition and decreasing inflammation, really setting the stage so that if a woman did use bioidenticals, it'll be safer then. And then as well as, and that's why I use more supplements, nutrition, specific herbs customized for each woman, because even on bioidentical, it's important that a woman, gets regular pap smears and breast exams just to make sure, and also get the levels checked to make sure that they're at appropriate levels too.
Well, that is really interesting because there are so many mistakes that women are making trying to get healthy, maybe going on these synthetic hormones or trying to deal. We'll have to have a different conversation down the road for women that are in menopause and dealing with hot flashes and other, problems sleeping and so forth. But it really is holistic. So when women are in midlife, we'll say, what are some of these mistakes they're making? Are they doing restrictive dieting? Are they, what are you seeing? And what, in terms of those mistakes that women are making?
Definitely, Peggy. A common thing that I hear all the time from women is, I'm exercising like crazy. I'm doing my cardio. I'm restricting my diet, and this weight is not coming off, and it's even getting worse. So that I would say these are two key or three key issues. Also, is the third one being not eating enough protein. So what happens is that's why, what worked in the past isn't working anymore because our body is going through this beautiful transition. And so it's important not to overdo the cardio. In fact, that can create more stress in the body, more inflammation, and actually slow down metabolism. As women over the age of 40, 45, what we need to focus on is more strength training. You still do cardio, but you need to make sure you're doing, gentle strength training exercises because we need to make sure that our muscles are toned, that we're not losing muscle, because our muscles then help us not only balance blood sugar, but also boost our metabolism and help with us down the road to keep us strong, limber, and, to really keep us very healthy as we go through the ages. So that's very important, is really being aware of the amount of cardio you're doing, increasing the amount of strength training, starting gentle, nothing crazy. Just even, I love isometric exercises, which are our own muscle against our own muscle. And then they can gradually increase with some weights. And then also making sure, very, very important, that they're getting enough adequate protein, 20 to 25 grams per meal.
Well, I just want to highlight these points because I think a lot of people have them exactly backwards. So we want to decrease the cardio, not overdo it. We want to do the strength training. And I teach water fitness classes. That's just a passion that I have here in the community. And I will tell you, the women that are, 50 plus, even a little older, they are fixated on the cardio. And it's in their mind that if they're not huffing and puffing and they're not doing, at least 30 minutes of cardio out of the class, that they're not burning calories. And I'm attempting to educate them that the strength training also burns calories, and it is not going to stress the body in the way that the excessive cardio does. I think that is so eye-opening because the cortisol that you mentioned is can be like a stress
Yes.
hormone for the body. And the excessive cardio, my understanding is it increases the cortisol, as you're
Yes.
saying. So I need some language to help encourage these women. And what I tell them is, even though you're not, because your heart rate will still accelerate. We do resistance exercises in the water. We've got these rigid bells that have some type of, they're like cut out, so there's extra resistance. It's like doing a weight training exercise in the water, so they're not sweating. But making that switch for people that maybe got caught up in the exercise craze, when you had to do all the cardio and all the aerobics classes and all of that. I don't even call my class water aerobics. I call it water fitness because I want to get away from that cardio notion. So I think this message is one that is really eye-opening for people. And I think also when they start feeling the results of the resistance training, that is one thing that I noticed, that they're like, yeah, let's do the bells. Let's work out with more resistance, because they're feeling and seeing the results, because cardio isn't going to build the muscle. And then we need the muscle, as I understand it. And we need the protein to build the muscle. That was the other thing you mentioned. We need how many grams per meal? 20?
Yes. Ideally between 20 to 25 grams. Some
Okay.
women may actually even need more,
Okay.
and I can kind of itemize what that means
Yes.
so you have a visual.
Let's get your list.
Sure. So that would be something like 3 to 4 ounces of chicken, or 3 to 4 ounces of fish, or 2 to 3 eggs, maybe with a little bit of yogurt or cottage cheese, which has some seeds. And it could be a cup of Greek yogurt with some seeds or nuts. That's just an example, just to get a visual of 20 to 25 grams, sometimes even more, may be needed. And for women also, it's very important. I know intermittent fasting is wonderful, where, you fast from the time of dinner until the next day morning. But a lot of women, because of stress and they're not sleeping well, the adrenals are working on overtime. So a lot of women then, when they fast for prolonged periods of time, it actually creates more stress on the body, because the time to fast is going to vary person to person, again, because of their unique body, physiology, life circumstances. So it may vary person to person. I always tell women, follow your intuition. If they're feeling hungry in the morning, by all means, eat earlier. Don't feel like, oh, I have to do this intermittent fasting from this time to this time. Our bodies are not robots. They're very flexible. They adapt to all this, whatever we may be going through. So really honor the wisdom of your body, your own intuition, your own inner guidance. And that's very important, because for a lot of women, then if they start the morning with eating a little bit of protein again, and maybe a little bit of carbs as well. They'll get more energy, decrease inflammation. Their blood sugar will be even having greater balance. They're not going to get these spikes in their or dips in their blood sugar or in insulin, which then causes weight gain and all, that whole sequel or sequence of events can then be shifted just by making small changes. And that again goes back to really acknowledging our inner wisdom and guidance and timing of when we eat.
So it sounds like everything you're describing is the replacement for Ozempic. You can't just rely on taking a shot or I guess pills that they have these days, because I think of it like somebody wants the quick fix. So they want to paint the walls and they're like, I need paint. They bring the paint and they put it in the center of the room. Well, the paint is not going to do anything. You have got, this is the analogy I use. You've got to paint the walls. You've got to do the work. You've got to do the appropriate actions. So the gentle cardio, we've talked about that in the past, like walking, 5 or 10 minutes in one direction, then the other, especially after eating. You probably were going to mention that again. It's one of my favorite tips. And then the weight or resistance training, enough protein to feed the muscles. Because you also can't paint the walls if there's no paint. So you can't build your muscles if there's no protein. And then you mentioned carbs, but can you give us a list of the carbs? People are so worried about eating carbohydrates and they'll, some people like don't eat carbs at all. So what would be some choices that would we could add in?
Absolutely. So, as important as protein, and I wanted to also mention some vegan sources as well, which
Okay.
includes, let's
Yes.
say, a cup of lentils. Making delicious
Hmm.
lentil soup is
Yum.
fantastic. And also, protein shakes are
Write
there.
these down. I'm getting hungry right now. Yes, I'm making notes as you're talking. I love
So,
lentil soup. Oh,
So these are some other options. Now, when it comes to carbs, our body needs carbohydrates as fuel for energy. That's very important. And now the amount of carbs may vary person to person as well, depending, on their genetics and how their digestion and their metabolism and so on. However, I tell people don't avoid carbs altogether. We need our vegetables. Vegetables are full of fiber and so many nutrients and antioxidants. So we need an adequate amount of vegetables as well. And then other sources of carbs, let's say for some people, they may like white rice. I'm in favor of white rice versus brown rice. Brown rice can be very hard to digest for many people. So, well cooked white rice and then also potatoes, not to fear potatoes, and all types of potatoes, whether it's sweet potatoes, you can eat yams, different purple potatoes, yellow, so on. So we need the carbs too. Our thyroid needs that nutrition and carbohydrates as well. And we need that as fuel,
wow. I
carbohydrates
didn't
as fuel for energy.
I didn't know that our thyroid needs the carbs.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes. It's important. That's why I really feel that ultimately it's about balance. We need the protein. We need our, vegetables. We need the carbs. We need everything and healthy fats, of course, as well. And everything in balance and moderation. I'm not really in favor of extreme diets. And I do know they work and I do know that they have their place sometimes to jumpstart the metabolism. But then I always gently try to bring people back, if they've been on extreme diets, into something that's a little bit more balanced. That way, the gut bacteria, you get a wide diversity of good gut bacteria when you have, more of a well-rounded meal plan. And that makes a very big difference. And we do need the nutrients and fiber. Because we're not getting enough fiber, that's also affecting that we're not getting the right amount of good bacteria in our gut, which is responsible for every function in our body, whether it's producing vitamins, whether it's also making hormones, breaking down hormones, detoxification. The the first number one principle of good health is a healthy gut. And because we don't eat a lot of fiber, we need to introduce it gently so we don't get bloating and gas and constipation. However, it's very important.
Yeah, and that so we get that from the vegetables and also
Yes.
from the carbohydrates. And then you
Yes.
also mentioned, um, like cottage cheese, which has fallen off the radar. It doesn't seem like it's as popular these days, but that's a really high source of
It
protein.
is. It's a
Um,
fantastic source. It's something actually I take pretty much every morning
yeah,
myself.
I used to make a sort of ice cream where I would take cottage cheese and just frozen mango, no sugar or anything, put that in the Vitamix, which is a pretty powerful blender. And
Yes.
then it's like mango ice cream. It's better than yogurt, in my opinion.
Delicious.
You just put me in mind to do that. So you're talking about bloating, but why are women, if they're not eating, fiber, why are they bloating? Why are they getting cravings, fatigue? How are those all connected? Is that a blood sugar thing? And I want to let everyone know, friends, Dr. Chari and I have done a 2-part series on blood sugar. I'm going to re-upload that to this channel so it'll be fresh content. And I want you to watch uh, level 1 and level 2 about the blood sugar, because it is literally like a chemistry lesson and a biology lesson. I personally am fascinated by how the body functions. So we'll look at that again. I want everyone to know that we've talked about blood sugar in great detail. So what's going on with the bloating, fatigue, cravings?
Yeah, so again, it's because of the fluctuation in our hormones, all of the hormones. Again, not just estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, but our insulin levels are fluctuating, our blood sugar levels are fluctuating, and also we're getting a buildup oftentimes of cortisol, which is one of the stress hormones, and imbalances of of other hormones for our appetite, leptin and ghrelin. So all of these put together, and it really goes back to gut health. Because ultimately, and I know we'll talk about this in just a minute, but with the GLP-1, that's something we make, which it's called glucagon-like peptide. We make that in our gut, in the last part of our small intestine, in our colon, and then we also make a little bit in our brain as well, in our brainstem. So
Oh,
yes, this is something our body naturally produces. So when we have unhealthy guts because of processed foods, because of stress, because of so many different factors that are affecting our gut health and exposure to all the toxins, that's going to affect then how much GLP-1 we produce. And that's why it's so important to go back to the fundamentals and basics to have our body do it. I do use natural remedies as well to enhance that, which are completely safe and no side effects. And then the foundations of health always.
so let's say we start with the foundations of health, and women are getting better sleep because that affects all the functions. They have their liver functioning well. They're eating the protein and the fiber. They're getting enough vegetables. They're not doing the crazy cardio. I think that's what I'll start calling it, crazy cardio. They backed off from that. They're doing the resistance training, but they feel like, I just need to get over that. And what would be some of these natural alternatives to Ozempic or the GLP-1? So I guess that's the generic name, or that's the biological name, the glucagon like peptide that our bodies create naturally. The gut, I'm just kind of summarizing to make sure I understood it correctly. The gut is also involved in creating that. So when
Yes.
we're not doing these things optimally, we're not producing that. People want the shortcut or what they see the celebrities doing. And, this show is not about diving into all the side effects. Everybody can find that pretty easily, but we want to find the alternatives. So what would be some of these things that we kind of boost all those other things a little bit once we've got the foundation?
Yes. Well, there are certain supplements that a person can take that will actually increase your body's production of that, but it goes back to gut health.
Okay.
It goes back to gut health. And I don't, that's where I customize for each person's specific supplements and remedies. But if people just really simply go back to the fundamentals of what we were speaking about, then when they take any supplements, and there could be different ones, there's berberine, berberine is wonderful. It's anti-parasitic as well. It also helps to make the cells more sensitive to insulin. It helps to balance the blood sugar, helps with the metabolism. So that's one. And then I use, other ones as well because it's kind of like a a great elixir or a combination of different ones. But again, for each person, it's a little customized. But I want everyone to know that still the power is back in their hands as well.
I love that.
And that, still by really following the fundamentals and even something as simple as walking after we eat for 5 or 10 minutes helps your muscles pull in that sugar to be used as energy and can really help balance the blood sugar. Because the more our blood sugar is balanced, and we need to still go back to the foundations no matter what, of what we're eating, what we're putting into our body. And that's where fiber comes in as well as protein to help balance the blood sugar. And that makes a huge difference, as well as building our own muscle to boost our metabolism, give us the building blocks by eating more protein to make more of the muscle, and then exercising that. Then what happens with our muscles is as they are building, our metabolism is boosted, and then we're able to then take in more of the sugar that's in our bloodstream and balance that out. And so many beautiful changes take place with that.
Well, I've got two bonus tips. I would say move to Florida and get a dog because that's what I did. And the lifestyle really suits me because you can be outdoors most of the year and the weather is, I really thrive in this climate. Just, I feel like I'm an orchid or something. I just really feel healthier. And then we have a puppy dog. So that takes care of the walking. And we do that several times a day, just short walks, like 10 or 15 minutes. And it's amazing the effect that has had on not only myself, but my husband. We just feel better. We feel we're sleeping better. And that I would add, I think those two things have resulted in a third, which is reduce stress. And I know for me and many people in the early part, 2020 and up until now, it was very, very stressful with so many upsets in people's lives and health concerns and struggles with family members and loss of jobs and everything that went along in these times that we wish would be stay in the rear view mirror. But I, for one, didn't realize how much stress I was carrying until I made these changes. And I consulted with you, and my husband did as well. And I mean, I think he lost 14 pounds, and I'm right on his heels. I think I was around that 11, something like that. But it's from incorporating these things that you talked about, making some simple changes in the diet, no restrictions, really. I mean, we don't deprive ourselves. If anything, it's like we're eating carbohydrates where we weren't before. We were eating a lot of like cashews and things, and it's like really high in calories and fat. Wasn't as balanced of a diet. And so I just want to say to everybody, if you are at all interested in finding out what might be going on in your situation, maybe it's not stubborn belly fat, maybe you don't have an issue but with that physical concern, but you're under stress, you're not sleeping well. Maybe you have internal things like indigestion or heartburn, or maybe you're on some kind of medications you want to get off. I trust Dr. Chari. I would love for you to get this complimentary consultation. And can you tell us how that works? It's on the phone or on Zoom, or how do you connect with people?
Sure, Peggy. Yes, I do it by both ways, whichever is the person's preference. We can do the complimentary 15 consult by phone or by Zoom, either way.
Okay, that's great. And again, that's at charicenter.com. You'll click on that button. And as we are closing out, Dr. Chari, anything else that you would like to add or summarize for our audience in terms of just literally shedding? A couple of weeks ago, I talked about decluttering your emotional belongings and things. And sometimes we're just carrying a heaviness about us. So I think freeing up emotionally. I know your brother also does emotional healing work. So check it out, everybody, charicenter.com. But what would you like to summarize for us as we close out?
Yes, Peggy, it's so important, the stress and emotional component. So we have the physical aspect with, in terms of our biochemistry, what we're eating in our body, detoxification, decreasing inflammation, and eating the right amounts of, different types of foods at different times of day. All of that is very important in exercise. And very critically important is addressing the emotions and stress. Because sometimes, even if we take care of all of these issues, but the pink elephant in the room is the emotions and the stress, which is then also leading to inflammation, hormone imbalances, lack of deep sleep, fatigue, and weakened immune system, and the list goes on, because it's very, very important to address that, especially in this day and age, more important than ever. And then when you combine that, addressing the physical and the emotional, mental, emotional, then you have, it's balance. That's truly what balance is. And then the body is restored to an excellent state of health with the blood sugar, with decreasing inflammation, with our metabolism. It's like everything then flows in harmony.
Well, Dr. Chari, that is an often overlooked aspect. And I think what happens is people get into a cycle where they're frustrated with some health challenges. That causes stress. The stress worsens the health challenges, and on it goes. We've had a number of people join us on this live stream. And if you could stay a few more minutes, there are some questions that I'd love for you to consider here. And the one I really thought was interesting, are there other peptides that are beneficial aside from the GLP? And are all peptides done through a prescription if somebody did want to, kind of go that route?
Yes, that's a great question. Well, there's many different peptides. And again, our body naturally produces peptides, which is the building blocks of protein. Our body naturally produces them. It may decrease, with the over the years and because of different health conditions and so on. However, it's something our body naturally produces. And there's different ways of actually getting peptides, and different physicians, some offer injections. There may be some that are oral. However, the peptides that I use are 100% natural, oral, sublingual, and probably some of the most advanced that are out there. And incredible results with that. So, and 100% natural, no side effects. Not only no side effects, but incredible shifts in healing. Let's just put it that way.
That's so interesting. So the peptides are the building blocks of
Yes.
our protein. Yeah,
Yes.
amazing. Now, somebody else had a question. What about Tai Chi for weight
Mhm.
loss?
Yes, another beautiful question. So we tend to think of a lot of that we have to go out there, and a lot of what we call the yin and yang, that we have to go out, use weights and this and different model, things like that, techniques, which can be aggressive, quite aggressive for some people, depending on their body, their constitution. So I love also the yin approach to building muscle. There's so many techniques from Asia, and Tai Chi is beautiful, yoga is beautiful. As important as building muscle is our increasing our flexibility. Their strength and flexibility are very both critical actually as we age, as we go through the years. We need that flexibility and we need that strength. I love Tai Chi. I love yoga. I love Pilates. And that's why I also love the isometrics, which is again your muscle against your muscle. And you can use weights if you want and light weights, but you can get the same results. And there's even a very interesting technique called the Japanese walking technique, which is like walking 3 minutes quickly, then 3 minutes at a relaxing pace. And you do that, you know, over a period of maybe 30 minutes or so. That really tones the muscles. And it's a good workout. And it's not so intense, but it is intense when you first start doing it. It's so, yes, there's so many different techniques that are very powerful.
I love that. We have another. I was thinking my dog is going to like that too. The quick pace,
Yes.
alternating with the recovery. Another question about a supplement, creatine. What's your opinion on that?
Yes, that can be helpful too. Again, the dosage can vary for person to person, but that, yes, that can be helpful for building muscle. It can be helpful for brain function. Yes, it can be very good. And again, it may vary person to person and depending on their kidney function, etc. And as far as dosages go, but yes, that can be
Okay.
beneficial.
Again, I would recommend if you have specific questions, maybe you're combining supplements or something, I would do the consultation with Dr. Chari and just say, hey, I'm taking this. And, is this a good brand? What do you think? Because sometimes the marketers are going to promote a certain thing and, you want to have someone you can trust to kind of point you in the right direction. So this is interesting. One of our viewers, Big E, says that I had thyroid pain, but it disappeared after using coffee creamer and other products without carrageenan. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I guess that's an additive or a thickener, the carrageenan. Um,
Oh,
that's
carrageenan. Yes.
interesting. People are, we're sensitive to different things.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, Mama says cottage cheese with cucumbers, sea salt, and turmeric. That sounds amazing.
That
I
is.
love cucumbers. But sometimes every
Yes.
once in a while you get one and they're bitter. I like them when they're sweet. um, Speaking of that, is it okay? What do you think about eating the vegetables without the peel? Like if I were to peel the cucumber skin off, is that I'm still getting benefits from the cucumber? Sometimes that's
Oh,
kind of bitter.
definitely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And because of the sprays that you're using, it's good to remove the peel, or
Oh,
yes.
good.
Yes. So that's why, and wash it very thoroughly and then remove some of the peel for sure.
Brilliant. Yes. I'm looking at the questions here, but I just want to remind all of the viewers that Dr. Chari has had several appearances on the show. We've talked about seed oils, we've talked about microplastics, we've talked about the spraying in the skies, in the water, and all of that. So she's well aware and really on the cutting edge in terms of keeping your body healthy in a natural way. So just want to, in case anybody hopped on this live stream a little bit later, she is an MD, but she is more of a holistic, functional, integrative doctor with that approach. So another one, we talked about the peptides. So Biggie also said that I defeated heartburn in the process and I incorporated lemon water with a couple of slices every night. What's so great about the lemon water? I love that also.
Lemon water is wonderful. Some people may be sensitive to that. So everyone again has to really see if it agrees with them or not. But, lemons have electrolytes, they have vitamin C, they help to alkalize the body, they help to cleanse our liver, our kidneys. So many benefits are there with lemon water. And sometimes people take it in the morning. You can take it, also add a little bit of honey to that too. Makes a delicious drink. And it's a very cleansing way to start the day.
Yeah, I love that. And vitamin B in the honey, as I understand it. Um, Someone also says getting a massage is very good. Of course,
Yes.
that reduces stress. Are there physical benefits beyond that, Dr. Chari, of just feeling good from the massage? Is it like a detoxing for the body also?
Definitely. Massage, I love massages. And, when you find the right person, it is so healing because ultimately you're also moving the lymph in the body. We're moving the
Yes.
fluids through the body. The lymphatic system is like the vacuum cleaner of the body. And so we want to help move that through, which is what with massage we can do that as well. It also, of course, massage releases tension in our muscles, increases circulation, increases oxygenation, and it puts us in the relaxation response. Because for most of us, we're foot is on the accelerator. We need the foot on the brakes as well for balancing our nervous system. And massage is a great way to do that. It will also, because we go into that relaxed response, it can help with our digestion, help with our sleep, help with our
Oh,
immune system. So many benefits.
sign me up. You heard it, friends. This is the prescription, Dr. Chari prescription. We need our let's see, lemon water with honey. We need our cottage cheese. We need our massage and our walks. Okay, here's another one. How about sweet potatoes? What do you think about
Oh,
those?
absolutely. Sweet potatoes are wonderful. Sweet potatoes, yams, different types of potatoes. It's good to vary it a little bit. And
Hmm.
absolutely, because every vegetable has its own unique plethora of vitamins and minerals. And so when you vary things, vary what you're eating, you're getting so many different antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, and different benefits.
Ah, yeah. So the whole variety is important.
Yes.
I also love limes. I'm favoring limes now over lemons. The one thing I really miss from California, friends, Dr. Chari also was a fellow Californian, so we sort of made the trek to Florida. In fact, Dr. Chari, you really inspired me and my husband to come to Florida. And we're so happy that we did. The only thing I really miss from California, aside from the Mexican food, is the limes. We had a lime tree in our backyard, and they were Mexican limes, and they were yellow in color. But oh, I'm going to start just craving them right now. I need somebody to like ship me a box of Mexican limes from Southern California, and I would do everything. I just love the limes, hot, cold, put it in food, squeeze it on the vegetables. I would squeeze it on my fruit, like on watermelon or so somebody mentioned limes there that they're very alkalizing. A
Yes.
couple people are asking about collagen supplements, I'm assuming. So I have talked about that from time to time on the show as well. I've used it with some results, but I went overboard with it and I started getting hives. I did because I wasn't doing it in the right amount. Instead of a teaspoon, I was doing a tablespoon. I'm like, why is my skin itching? And I think I was having an allergic reaction to too high of a dose.
I see. Yes, collagen is wonderful, and you can get it in many forms. It's very important though the sourcing of the collagen. Make sure it's from grass-fed cows. That's very important. And
Oh,
yes,
okay.
that's very important. And also, eating bone broth.
Okay.
Going back to bone broth is very, very, very nutritious. It helps to heal the lining of our gut. And people can put, different vegetables in there and other things that they may like. But yes, broth is very, very important. I really feel that's important. And then
Okay.
the right forms of collagen.
You just put me in mind. I wonder if the collagen I had came from some shellfish because I do get itchy from, and I don't eat it anymore, but shrimp. And so I just don't even eat that. And I don't even really like it that much. But I noticed that I would get like all my skin would itch when I would eat that. So I wonder if that collagen had some
I'm not sure,
shellfish
the
or
source or
component
what
or something
ingredients.
from it. I guess it could have been. All right. One of our viewers is asking, is the terzepatide the same? Is the terzepatide shot, which is my understanding is another
Yes.
GLP-1, is it the same as a pill? Apparently there are pills. She said, I know you don't recommend these, but is it the same? What's the difference between the pill and the shot that people are doing?
Yes, well, because a lot of people don't want to take shots, so now they're coming up with oral forms of it. Now, again, there's still maybe some side effects. And so this is why I still going back to the fundamentals and the basics again. And for everyone to know there's natural forms of GLP supplements that are out there,
Okay.
and that you can get the same exact results without any side effects. Because, even though that may be a little more effective than some of the other older versions of the GLP-1 medications on the market, still this potentially could be some side effects. And just to know you can get the same results using natural remedies that have no side effects and actually enhance the healing process in the body, which is incredible.
Yeah, and less expensive. I understand
Yes,
as well. So,
absolutely.
berberine is popping up, and you mentioned that. Is there anything else that somebody, if they're curious, just in trying, or is it best to just consult with you and you can.
Yes, because I do
Specifically.
use different ones based on their
Okay.
situation. Yes,
Okay.
that
Okay.
gets results. Absolutely.
Uh, um, we're getting comments. People love the bone broth with mushrooms, garlic, spinach,
Mm.
and scallions. Some people are buying bone broth in cartons from Costco. Thank you, Dr. Portugal. Gave me a comment on my skin and my teeth. For those who have been asking me, I do have my youth serum. I'll have a link for you in the description box. You can just go to youthserum.com. All the info is there. I've got kind of a crazy before and after of my skin. And we'll have to talk about that in an upcoming broadcast, Dr. Chari. In fact, I was going to talk about sunscreens today, but then I remembered we had our appointment for this, belly fat and Ozempic. So I definitely am going to bring information about the staying away from the chemicals in sunscreen. And I know you're aware of that as well. Can you just throw out a couple? I think it's avobenzene and uh, we don't want to what we put on our skin is absorbed into our body. So we don't want to put on those harsh chemicals. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but can you think of any others right off the bat that people should be aware of or what they should look for?
Oh, with the sunscreens. Well, that I will, yeah, maybe in another,
Let's talk about
because
that in an
I will
upcoming
literally
one.
itemize that too.
Yeah, I know that I look for things that are not the nano particles, but
Yeah.
I really don't use a lot of sunscreen. What I do is I just use a hat and sunglasses and long sleeves. And I do allow my skin to get sun because I know, now remember you were telling
Very
me your
important.
body needs it to create cholesterol and again, we can cover
Vitamin
this in
D.
another video, but I just wanted to let everybody know I was going to talk about sunscreen tonight, but I switched gears. I'll talk about that in an upcoming broadcast, especially as we enter summer. But I have to say, I am so, I do get upset sometimes with the habits of other people. And what bothers me is when people are doing the spray sunscreens
Oh,
in
yes.
front of you. They're not going on the person, they're going in the air. You're breathing them in and I'm swimming, I'm doing my laps and I'm smelling what smells like bug spray from the people's spray sunscreen is now in the air. They've added chemicals to the air. So if you want to put chemicals on your body, go for it. Please don't spray them where I have to breathe them in. That's my public service announcement. And I'll dive into that coming up. Okay, this is really interesting. I love everybody's comments. So J Raw Rose, welcome on board. So J Raw, I'm assuming raw food, says it's not belly fat, it's old. I don't usually use this word. It's old crap in our intestines. That's so. I think that I've seen people with an extended belly, and I'm thinking the same thing that you've talked about that, Dr. Chari, the gut is sluggish. They're not
Oh,
eliminating
yes.
properly. So is there truth to what J. Raw Rose is saying here?
Yes, well, there's several reasons for the belly fat. Again, it's due to inflammation, it's due to imbalance of hormones, it's due to nutritional deficiencies, it's due to poor gut health, it's due to imbalance of blood sugar. All of these factors put together can contribute to that. And oftentimes, again, when the body is in a highly toxic state, the body's saying, let's use fat to buffer the toxins to protect
Oh,
our organs. That's another
absolutely.
aspect too.
Yeah, friends, when Dr. Chari and I talked about the blood sugar issue, and again, we have two deep dives on those. I mean, they're like 40-minute videos, both part one and part two. And there is a lot of important information about fat and it's biologically active and what the function it is in your body. It is, as I say, a fascinating biology lesson. And I actually, for some reason, I just felt like doing a lot of graphics. So I got all the graphics that show what Dr. Chari was describing. So I will rebroadcast that for you in the coming days, and you'll see more about how all of these pieces go together. I really want to thank everybody in the chat. Uh, Mawa, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, has a recipe for 5 whole cut up lemons, 30 cut up cloves of garlic, a liter of water, boil, simmer for 20 minutes, cool, strain, and drink 1 ounce. And my understanding is that's for your gallbladder stones, like a home remedy. That's
Yes, well, it's going to definitely help to cleanse, the organs in general. And garlic is fantastic. Garlic helps to get rid of parasites, antibacterial, antiviral, and fantastic for the immune system. We eat, cloves of garlic at least every day, every other day with our
oh my
meals.
gosh. Wow, that's something I don't have in my diet, and I guess I need to bring that in. So, our viewer has lost 8 pounds from not eating sugar and junk over a month. She says
Mhm.
if you do it that way, it works, but a lot of people don't have patience. I'm seeing lots of great health stories here. I kind of
Mm.
scrolled through some of them, but we've got several people that are leaving comments about their own health improvement naturally. That's who's attracted to this channel and these conversations. Dr. Portugal says that she has signed up for dance classes, flamenco, hip hop, and ballet. I got to tell you, I
Mm.
love flamenco dancing to watch. I love the energy, the vibrancy, the colors. I've had the great fortune of being in the south of Spain where I was this close to flamenco dancers. And I decided I'm going to take a flamenco dance class. This was when I was back in California. Now, I don't know if the teacher was scattered in her approach or if it was me, but I found it very challenging as a person to try to learn that. So now I still enjoy watching it, but that I think dance classes are great
Definitely.
for exercise. And friends, you can get it on YouTube for free. There are so many people that will teach these classes step by step. I think I should do that for the flamenco. Guillermo says, shop at the farmers markets. What's
Yes.
your take on that, Dr. Chari?
Definitely. Always, always support your local farmers. They're dedicating our lives for our benefit. My goodness, absolutely. Definitely support your local farmers. Go to your farmers markets and the freshness of the produce that's just been picked and brought by them. You get to meet the people who are actually so lovingly and with so much dedication growing the food for our benefit. And that exchange as well is as important as how nutritious the food is and how fresh it is. That's the
Yeah.
community.
Oh, absolutely. I feel if the food is just made by industrial farms, there's got to
Yeah.
be something that's lost in the translation, so to speak. And extremely important is, as you said, we want to support the small farmers
Yes.
because the industrial farms want to buy up the farmland, and the farmers that are struggling are, turning over their acres to produce soybeans or whatever. And I know that in California, there's a lot of co-ops. So the farmers will kind of trade with each other. Or I used to get a box of food from
Yes.
one farm. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe you have all this variety. And they say, well, we actually trade with other farms. We produce a lot of onions. And so they give us their fruit or whatever. And so it's a great way of supporting that. I'm a
Definitely.
huge, huge proponent. Um, White Space says, uh, I see very thin vegans. Is that kind of diet best? I know that is really controversial. I do have a number of vegans that watch the channel, and just my own opinion is, eat what suits you. We're not here to really talk about food philosophies per se. But Dr. Chari, I'd like you to talk about one of your best tips that I took away from you. You said, you don't, if you want to do the blood testing and the food sensitivities, you're happy to do that for people. But you said, notice how the food makes you feel. How do you
Yes.
react to it? So can
Yes.
you talk a little bit about that? You can be your own detective, your own food detective.
That's so important, Peggy. And that's why it's so important to go back to your intuition, to really see what is your body craving. And if, let's say, somebody's craving sugar, what your body's actually needing is energy. It's not the sugar per se. We have to really look at our life, our stress, the emotions, so many different factors. So a lot of times, and again, everyone has different philosophies, and everyone needs to do what they feel most comfortable with. However, I was vegan for a long time, and actually, for my body type, it didn't work. And my brother, the same thing, it didn't work. And so that's why my body is now, I feel like my body's thriving eating the way I am eating now because I'm really paying attention to what is my body needing. I don't have really fixed set meals all the time. I vary things here and there. But sometimes you may feel like you really need protein. And what I would recommend is if someone is feeling very weak, if they're vegan, they're feeling weak, to really start looking at your diet. I'm not saying that you have to eat meat, but maybe start incorporating, be careful the amount of processed foods you're eating also. Because a lot of time as vegans, they may be eating a lot of processed foods, which is causing gut disturbances and other imbalances. Make sure you're getting all the nutrients or taking a very good food form of a multivitamin. That's very important. And most importantly, without judging yourself, really see what is your body asking for without judging yourself. And your body may be needing some more protein. I'm not saying it has to be from an animal source, but
Right.
there's lentils and different protein drinks as well. But again, it goes back to the intuition because a lot of times where they may be nutritionally deficient. And also a lot of times when people eat maybe more raw foods as vegan, and if they're not producing enough digestive acids, hydrochloric acid, digestive enzymes, enough bile, they may not be able to break down the food as efficiently. They may need to eat more well-cooked vegetables and broths and, vegetable broths and different foods like that so that they're getting more of the nutrients. That's very important.
And I do want to mention something you said on a previous show that the vegetables have protein, like you say, lentils
Yes,
and vegetables have protein, like green
absolutely.
beans and, like they actually have a lot of protein. So when people are just skimping on that and they're thinking, oh, I'm just going to eat, a protein bar, or I know for a period of time, I also did vegan. I was really, I'll have to tell the story in another show sometime, but I would get hungry and I would go and get like the vegan snacks from the health food store. And it's like, I could have done better eating a sweet potato and
Yes.
some green beans, but I was just thinking in my mind, well, at least it's, a vegan item. So it's how you feel with those things. Like for myself, I have a difficult time digesting corn, whether it's corn chips or tortillas, which is a shame since I love Mexican food. But there's rice, there's beans, there's fish, not enchiladas that I have without tortillas. So there's just listening to your body and understanding how you respond. I do have to share a quick story about the daughter of a friend, and as teenagers often do, they'll get on different kinds of trends. And the daughter, actually, she had two daughters, and they were doing strict vegan. And the mom would often make them a protein shake in the morning, or like a smoothie, like a fruit smoothie before they would go to school. And she was very concerned that they were doing vegan and they weren't getting the right food. This mom, this is in Australia, by the way, this mom cooked beef, like ground beef, and ground it up into the smoothies for the daughters. And the daughters were saying, "This is so delicious. Oh, thanks, Mom, for this smoothie." She said, "I had to do it because they were developing their, they weren't even adults yet." And she was so concerned about their hormones. And after a while, they did make some changes to their diet. But I'm just kind of chuckling because people can kind of go on trends and not realize how it is affecting them. And not to say that some people don't thrive with different types of diets. Again, I don't want to get into a philosophical discussion on that because I honor what people's choices are with their food. I had a whole discussion about that with the government, food shaming people. It's like, I understand educating people about food, but it should remain their choice. That's where I draw the line. I'm in favor of food freedom, just like health freedom. And I know that gets me. Some people come at me for that. They think the government should knock a donut out of your hand. As a matter of fact, speaking of donuts, I have to show everybody a picture because today my husband brought home a couple of donuts, and I don't even know if I sent it to myself here, but let's look at a couple other. Okay, white space says my body seems to react poorly to grains. What could be going on with that if people are reacting poorly to grains? All right.
Yes,
Can you see that, everybody? That's a donut. Don't tell Bob Kennedy that I'm eating a donut. But you know what? I ate like a third, or I barely ate, but I told my husband to take a picture so I could show everybody. There's nothing wrong with treating yourself, but what happens when when the grains don't, is it because they're not organic, or what's going on there?
Yes, there could be many different reasons for that. One is the sprays that they're using on the grains. Number two is the digestive system needs support, meaning they need to give support to the stomach to make more hydrochloric acid to break the food down. They may need more enzymes to help break the food down. The liver and gallbladder may need to release more bile to help break that food down. And also just, so that's becoming more common again because of all the pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, glyphosate, everything that's out there. That's really affecting a lot of people in their ability to actually digest grains, because this has become really more of an epidemic, in the past couple of decades or so, and it's getting worse actually because of all of these reasons. And so we may need to look at, again, there's other grains so that people are now starting to make and mill that you can get, again, from small farms and places like that, that you can buy the flours, you can buy the grains, and people are able to now digest some grains that they weren't able to before. The other thing is, it sounds very simple, but really chewing your food very slowly and carefully, making it into a liquid, will also support your ability to break the food down right from the mouth itself before it even gets into the stomach. So, and I really feel if we can really help rebuild the gut, decrease the inflammation, increase the good bacteria with everything we shared today, and it takes time, it does take time, and clear out the toxins, then we'll be able to tolerate and eat more foods that we couldn't in the past. So I don't want people to feel like this is how it's always going to be. It won't. As we heal and continue healing our gut, then it actually opens the world again. And another very interesting thing, Peggy, is a lot of my patients, when I tell them when they go to Europe, I said, enjoy yourself. Don't feel like so restricted on, what you're eating with the pastas and the gluten and so on, and the breads. And they go there to Europe, Italy, France, and Eastern Europe, and they're able to eat these foods. And they said, my God, I'm not having digestive issues. I'm able to sleep like a baby. Inflammation is gone. Digestion is fantastic. My energy is through the roof. And then they come back and then they try to eat what they did before with the grains. And it's, again, the symptoms come back. So again, it's the quality of the grains, the sprays, so many different factors are there.
Well, if you give me 1 second, I'm going to show everybody the bread that I get that comes from Spain. And the flour is not enriched. So it's just flour. It does not have the niacin and everything else that they put in there. And could you, let me grab that. One sec. And thanks everybody for your questions. Okay. This is live, so here we are. This is called, I got to show it to everybody because I mentioned it on a previous show. It's called Cristal. And I think you can order it online. Actually, let me see if you're able to see it. Crystal, and Cristal. And it says ingredients: wheat flour, water, salt, yeast, uh, extra virgin olive oil. If you have bread at home, everybody, or, I don't know, hot dog buns or whatever you have, read the back and you're going to see that the flour, it says enriched flour. And there's all sorts of videos on YouTube about why are they doing that? They're bleaching the flour, they're taking the nutrients out. What is going on with that?
Yes, so it's stripping everything and then artificially putting it back in.
I can eat this and my husband can eat this without any if I eat regular bread, like after that donut, actually, I got a little I don't know what's going on, like some kind of acid reflux or something. I never get that from this bread, and it does not bloat. And besides all of that, it is absolutely delicious. So it is imported from Spain, and you don't have to take a trip to Spain, although you'll miss the flamenco dancers, but you'll get the good bread. So for those of you that eat bread, and I did not eat bread for a long, long time because of the bloating, and it was noticing after eating like a regular piece of toast, I couldn't digest it. I had like a little heartburn. And question, sourdough, is that how does that affect the bread if we eat sourdough?
Yes, well, with sourdough bread, I recommend artisan sourdough bread. In other words, made how from, the seeds again and grains that they do in, the Eastern European countries and how it used to be processed. And with that, a lot of people are able to tolerate, breads a little bit better because again, it's not processed, it's not made the same way as all the breads in the grocery stores are. It's done the way it was supposed to be done. And so then with that, then a lot of people are not having as much of the gas or bloating. But again, taking it slowly and really seeing how you feel when you eat it, that's going to be the most important. And it's great that nowadays we have more options. And because the public is now asking for it, because they're understanding really what's going on with the agriculture industry, which is fantastic. It's like empowerment to everybody.
I love that. Yes. Gosh, this has been such a great show. We've gone well over an hour. Thank you so much, Dr. Chari, for your generous knowledge and your time and sharing all this information with us. I want to thank everybody in the chat. We had a lot of people hop on, and we've got one last question coming in about Ezekiel bread. I think you've mentioned that on a previous show.
It depends. It depends. For some people, they're able to eat it well. Other people, they may have reactions. So again, I've noticed it depends person to person.
Yes. Well, let me just remind everybody, if you had a question that didn't get answered and you would like to talk to Dr. Chari, you can go to charicenter.com, click for the 15-minute consult. It's free. And she's a great listener. She's going to give you tips right off the bat. And then if you decide that you want to go deeper and you want her to guide you on everything, that's a whole nother direction. But she's happy to just kind of continue the conversation here. And I just want to thank you, Dr. Chari, for your regular appearances. It really is of value because sometimes I can flip my lid. I get a little frustrated with some of the things that are going on with our food and our health and, the government and so forth. So it's great to have just a rational conversation about these things and bring information that's so needed to our audience. So thank you everybody for being on board. I've got a Substack, which is Living Swell, like the ocean swell, Living Swell, .substack.com. And generally I will summarize what I talk about in the videos. We talked about so much on this one. I'll probably just do a couple of highlights and then direct everybody. I'll put a link to the video in case you came on to the live stream late. You'll be able to have that link to refer to it and share it with others. And I also wanted to make one more quick announcement about this channel, that I'm going to be doing a couple of broadcasts every week here. I'm going to do a Wellness Wednesday where we'll talk about these kinds of topics: health and food and nutrition and sleep and all of that. And then on Fridays, it's going to be Feel Good Fridays. And that's where it is more about dialing down the stress, more lifestyle tips like decluttering, all of those things that are going to help you feel better emotionally as well as physically, so you'll have more energy. So the Wednesday videos probably are just going to be a straight upload, and I'll probably upload those a little bit earlier, like maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon or something. So that will just be for you to digest at your own time. And then I'll let you know about, we'll continue our Friday get-togethers like this as well. So thank you, Dr. Chari. Appreciate you. Thank you, everybody. Signing off. Have a wonderful weekend. And I look forward to seeing everybody in an upcoming broadcast.